AITA for begging my girlfriend to uphold a sexist tradition just so she can make a good first impression? I have a big family that's incredibly close. We have big family dinners every few months where we all meet at my great-grandfather's estate and eat together. Typically how this works is that the women go cook for the time they're there and female don't. Which I am fully aware it's sexist ASHole. That being said, I am one of the youngest people in family and my protests mean literally nothing. Some of those women choose not to cook. However, this is usually met with a level of ostracizing. The women who don't cook are lives and long-term girlfriends. So they kinda already have a good family relationship doctored in. When I have seen new partners not cook, it's gone bad. Like completely ostracized, not speaking, cattiness, rudeness, etc. This dinner will be in 2 weeks and my girlfriend was asked if she would attend. Initially she said yes, which is great. I want for her to meet everyone and for everyone to get used to her being around. But when I explained to her the tradition, she was understandably bothered. I told her that I understood where she was coming from, however it was best for everyone if she just played along. I told her this isn't a permanent thing and that I am only asking her to do this so that she can avoid bad treatment from the rest of the family. This is her first impression and I don't think it's best if we cause waves. She told me that it's unacceptable and that if she has to do that she will not be going. I've tried to find a compromise with her on this but she won't budge and she's pissed at me. She told me that if I think it's acceptable to make her do this, I'm just as bad as everyone else, while my point is that she needs to make a good first impression. AITA? AITA for getting high so my relatives don't try and on their children on me? I live in British Columbia and my family often hosts at our home because we live on a lake. However, I seem to always get roped into watching the kids. Which means I don't get to enjoy my life when we have guests. My husband will drink beer with his brother and dad and my Mill and SIL will go on winery visits and I end up at the house responsible for my nieces and nephews. So last weekend I made sure I was high as UCK when they showed up. My husband and his brother had to watch the kids because I was in no condition. Their mom is pissed at me because she trusts me to make better choices. I told her that my free time is valuable and I wasn't free childcare. My husband had already had a few so his brother had to stay sober, poor baby. My husband thinks I should have tried talking to them again for the 50th time instead of getting hooked up. I think they now know better than to no-task me if I even want to watch the kids. AITA for telling a pregnant woman to sit on the ground instead of giving her my seat? My nephews both graduated from high school this morning and I wanted to sit up front so I camped out a bit in front of the entrance. I brought my folding camping chair and my headphones to listen to my show. About 40 minutes before the school would let us inside, a pregnant woman got next to me since somebody let her in line, I assume her partner. She asked me within 5 minutes, politely admittedly, if she could have my chair as she was going to have trouble standing the whole time. I said no, sorry I need it more, bad feet, knees, and went back to my things. She asked me again within 2 minutes and the answer was the same. She however got a little mad at me and said that she was going to be struggling the whole time and asked her partner to tell me. He asked me himself, politely, and I again responded that sorry but I need it more and suggested she could wait in their car or just sit in the ground. At this point the husband directly called me asshole but left me alone. AITA for putting out my neighbor's fire with my garden hose while we're on a fire ban. Update. Just for context, our sky is literally orange and filled with smoke already. There are weather alerts for smoke pollution, etc. Our entire area is on an extremely strict fire ban. I was out watering my garden once the sun went down, and my neighbor was out lighting up a campfire. I yelled over and told him we're on a fire ban. As if he didn't know, our entire area is covered in smoke from the fires, and he yells back that it's contained and we're not in a forest so who cares. So I took my hose and I soaked his entire fire pit and all of the wood I could see. He started screaming profanities at me and tells me he's going to call the cops. I told him to call, as they will tell him that he was in the wrong as we're on a fire ban. There have been many homes destroyed, animals who have lost their lives, and firefighters out there who are trying their best to contain it. Why have an open fire when it is not necessary? AITA here? AITA for yelling at my brother's pregnant girlfriend and kicking them both out of my house after she threw away my food? I, 27M, live alone. My brother, 21M, and his girlfriend, 19F, still live with our parents as they can't afford a place of their own. His GF is currently pregnant with him in 4 months. My brother asked to bring his girlfriend for dinner in order to catch up and I said sure, why not? However, the moment she entered my house she started complaining about the smell of the steak I was making and said just the smell alone makes her nauseous and she can't eat this. I tried to suggest an alternative, but she was dead set on Chinese food and ended up sending my brother to the nearest mall in order to get her some. I thought that would be the end of it, but after going to the bathroom and coming back, I caught her throwing my unfinished steak into the garbage. I asked her what the hell she was doing and said the smell was so strong she thought she'd end up throwing up on the floor and she needed to get rid of it, and then started spraying a perfume from her purse in my kitchen. I was beyond furious at this point and sent her back to the living room, and after my brother came back from the mall, I kicked both of them out with their Chinese food. My brother tried to convince me to let them back in, that I could make something else for the two ofus, and his GF was pretty much sobbing at this point, but I was dead set on kicking them both out. However, my parents ended up being mad at me for apparently causing so much distress to my brother's pregnant GF. I told them that she literally threw away our dinner, but they said that I shouldn't have yelled at her or kicked them out as she's still just a teenager who's now getting influenced by her pregnancy hormones, and that my outburst also caused problems in their relationship as she ended up sending my brother to sleep on the couch that night, even though he literally defended her as well against me, so I have no clue how this is my fault. AITA for apparently not having enough tact to deal with a pregnant teenager. Edit. Spelling. AITA. Friend yelled at me for getting a cat. My friend, F24, was a recent roommate and moved out of state to pursue a job. She was allergic to cats. I had always had pets growing up and wanted to have one again. We had some outdoor cats that I often fed and always liked to pet. I never let them in while my roommate lived here. The week she left, I let one in and the cat was so happy. I had to help him out. I gave him a bath, got him fixed, and he is now a very pampered prince living mostly inside with me. She was going to come back in 2 weeks to pick up the last bit of her things, but I promised myself that I would clean up before she came and vacuum as much cat hair as possible, not that he sheds that much. I did not tell her I was getting the cat. I had an incredible 2 weeks with the cat. Before she came back, I gave the cat to a friend to watch over so there wouldn't be extra dander in the apartment. Mind you, I kept my roommate's door closed so the cat would not go in. She comes back, and if you've ever had a cat, you know there's always a slight smell and slight dander. She immediately starts asking questions as her eyes get puffy. I told her I got a cat, but it has not gone in her room, and I tried to vacuum as much as possible, and I even got her allergy meds. She did not have a bed, so she was expecting to sleep on the couch. The cat had been laying on the couch the past 2 weeks. I got her an air mattress and put it in her room though. We went on the purchase so she could breathe a little bit better. She then proceeded to yell at me of how selfish I was, and how inconsiderate I was. I told her she had moved, and I was doing her a favor by letting her store stuff at my place. She stayed 1 night and then left when she was supposed to stay 2 nights. We haven't talked in 5 days, which is rare for us. AITA for making my dad's fiancé cry? My father, 54 meters, and his fiancé, 30F, have been together for about 6 years now. When they first got together, I, 17 meters at the time, was still living at home. She moved in about a month into the relationship, and I didn't have a problem with her at first, until she tried to actually mother me. I'm not talking about giving advice or being a supportive role model, more like giving me a 9 o'clock curfew. I live in a rural town, so that's a joke, and cleaning up after her dog has an accident. Every time I'd bring it up to my dad, he'd say, "Just try, for me." Needless to say, I moved out soon after. Fast forward to a week ago. My dad invites me over for dinner, out of nowhere, as we haven't spoken in quite some time. I hesitantly accept, and spend the following few days trying to prepare myself for what they're going to say. I show up that night, bottle of wine in hand, anxious out of my mind. The night goes on for a few hours, us exchanging small talk, until I can't take it anymore and ask wifey invited me. My dad said that they were getting married and wanted me to be his best man. I'm not going to lie, I laughed hard. This turned into the fiancé crying because she thinks that I don't like her, and I told her she was correct. It should also be said that given the option between me or his fiancé, my dad would choose her in a heartbeat. For example, I went on a 2-day camping trip. I had a spot in the garage for my car when I left. She had it when I got back until I moved out. And I really only care about that because hail damage. I've been getting comments about if that was the worst the fiancé was while I was living there, so I guess this is info I should add to the post. She comes from a very Christian family, and if her parents found out about the situation, I've heard, she'd be essentially shunned. So I guess the biggest thing is her keeping us a secret. She expects us to just accept her into the family. Andy guess her assumptions were somewhat correct, but how can she expect that when she doesn't think we're worth of her family? She knows she's doing something wrong, yet she wants us to play along like no one is being hurt. However, at this point, I guess that one thing could have changed. I didn't ask at dinner.